You set out with really good intentions, but somehow they don't go as planned. Somewhere along the way, things got tripped up, or you just decided it wasn't even worth the effort anymore. What do you do then? Isn't that kind of the thing that a lot of us experience when we want something new or different in our life? We want to, hang on a second, let me make sure I'm going live on Instagram. I always forget this step and it never seems to work, so I always have to forget it. Anyhow, so when we set out to do new things like that, actually, that's a good example because there's just a simple productivity habit that I want to develop. I just haven't, it hasn't been on the top of my priority list to know what I'm doing as far as the Instagram thing and have that all ready to go. Habits come at us from a lot of different directions, whether it's productivity or areas of our life that affect our overall health, like physical health, mental health, emotional health, relational health, etc. And this concept of setting out to do something and then getting tripped up along the way is definitely something we experience when we want to build new habits or move into something that seems better, better than what we're experiencing today, better for our future, etc. Want to say hi to James. I'm glad that you're here. I saw the message that you posted in Facebook a little while ago. I didn't have a chance to respond, but I'm glad that you're here. Welcome. So if you guys have any questions or thoughts about habit development, feel free to put them in. This is a conversation. I'm not a habit expert. My passion is around growth and this mm, whole life experience around growth and healing, and also this passion that comes from understanding trauma and the impacts of trauma, especially after we were at the ranch and different experiences of trauma that I've had, but also experiencing depression, anxiety, being shut down from the fears and lies and things that just got distorted inside of me that kept me from living well. And my passion is how can I help other people experience freedom? And it is freedom, but even that word just feels like it's so overused and so often used in the context of, and not in every case, but for me, when I see it, a lot of times I think of these messages of freedom as being hip, hip, hurrah, we're going to accomplish this thing and it's all going to be amazing on the other side, whatever's on the other side, the thing that we're looking forward for, the thing that we like idealize as the outcome on the other side. And inevitably, while we're still on earth, what we experience isn't the same as what we expect. And yet we can still be experiencing freedom. Freedom from a life of fears and anxieties into the life that God designed, where we are able to explore and receive from God and try new things and respond and know that we know that we know that we know God is going to be present with us even when it feels the absolute worst inside of us or the absolute worst around us. So my passion in that area applies to this habit concept because one, I'm constantly working on just different habits for myself, whether it's exercise, dietary habits, productivity habits here, on making things as effective as possible. I do a lot of things in the background that people don't know about. I have a tendency and ability to research, but that can get me into trouble because then I'm doing too many things, and fine tuning it so that I can experience life with not just meaning and purpose and following through on what I believe God's called me to do, but enjoyment. Enjoyment in the work, enjoyment with other people, enjoyment in other things that are beyond what I do here, just activities or fun, recreation, etc. That there's this kind of ebb and flow of work and play, etc. And habits are part of that. When my brain is really busy, I don't follow through on certain things that I want to accomplish in the home, or things start to pile up and I have to take dedicated time to pull it all together, to clear it up and set things back in order. Anybody else? Anybody want to admit that that's something that they resonates with them? And that busyness, then I realize I can be a little more effective by implementing some processes along the way. And so habits become part of that. And when I thought about habit building last week, I was thinking about the concept of habit stacking, which I believe came from James Clear with Atomic Habits. And that's probably where I heard it first. I remember reading the book a few years ago, a couple years ago, I don't remember exactly when, but in my mind, this is just this concept of, well, concept with a sense of relief. When I think about productivity or getting better, doing better, it takes me back to the challenges that I had. Now, I don't know if that was my hand causing balloons or if that was anybody else. I got to figure out this whole video thing. I am on an Apple system, and I've heard that the balloons happen. So, hey, let's celebrate. We're all in the process of growth. I can celebrate that with each of you. Okay, so this freedom that I've experienced has come from a deep, mm, almost like a weighted covering that did not feel good, of expectation and duty, performance, trying to get it all right and trying to do right as a Christian. So there can be a tendency, if I'm wanting to improve something, that I can go back into that mindset, that framework. But the mindset and framework that I'm talking about is tackling the concept of habits and applying them as part of our overall journey of growth and development, whether it's personally or our connection with God, how we relate with other people, dealing with different like challenging situations with someone when we're afraid to speak up, or we tend to be highly reactive and we say things that we don't feel good about later, say things that we shouldn't say and it causes harm, or financially, just different ways that our habits can trip us up and keep us from meeting the goals that we have long term for finances, etc. So I want to pursue habits in such a way that I don't go back to that old mentality, and then I offer space for myself to move forward, to explore more than just the task itself, just the concept of doing this next thing and making that the better way to live. It's a little challenging to explain, but I think that the thoughts that I have around habit building for this group that I want to launch this week, called the Habit Room, there'll be a 12-week short-term course, kind of just a beta testing of something that really just came up last week, and seeing if that would be helpful for people. And I think it will be, because I have several different concepts in mind that will help us take a step back from just the thing that we're trying to do or the way that we're trying to be better, to explore what the goals are, and to explore more around that gets kind of twisted in with it and can keep us from actually moving forward, or gets us to a place where we start off well and then we flounder and then we feel like we've failed. Now we start to feel shame because we keep trying, keep not getting better at whatever it is, and then shame starts to build. Anxiety starts to build when we think of all the things that we want to do, all the different ways that we want to be better or try something new. I believe that with different little topics and reflection points, we can identify some goals, identify those things that are tied up with it that can trip us up, like our expectations and where they lie, where our expectations are around those goals and what happens in that space in between, around the identification of a goal and whether or not it's even realistic, given our own limitations, given our availability of resources, whether it's financial resources or relational resources, internal capacity with stress levels, other factors that deplete us, health issues, etc. taking time to reflect on a little bit more of what that goal is can also give us the option to not only identify if maybe it's not quite realistic, but by working together, we can break it down a little bit and say, how about we adjust the goal and this is the goal? And that becomes more doable. The steps towards that goal are more easy to identify. They're easier to stick with and to move toward. So, like, let's say, for example, in my own planning, let me give an example of where I have not done this well. um, I would have a goal of X project sometime this year. Like I'd review at the end of the year, I'd say, I want this project done at the end of the year, and or I want to do two of these different things, whatever. And then I just put that on the calendar and I said, yep, there's my goal. And I left it at that. I didn't take time to reflect on several other aspects. Why? Why this time frame? What is it about this goal that fits in this season? Or what's prompting me to do that now versus later? Is there other activities? Are there other activities that I'm already engaged in that precede this that means I can't even get to this just now? Do I need to break that goal? Well, the truth is that one goal was very, very large. And without the ability to see the parts, I didn't even hardly get started because I hadn't broken it down and I hadn't identified some of these other things. When I wasn't moving toward that goal, my assumption was it's the fear inside of me. It's some kind of other obstacle that I can't move forward because there's just something internally, which I think had a part. There was a piece of that. And at the same time, there were elements of structure that I needed, or elements of clarity and understanding around the goal and around my motivation and how I was framing the goal that kept me from moving forward. So I'm reevaluating that today. I'm trying new processes. As I try these different processes, whether it's a productivity goal for the work I do online and a project that I want to do, or exercising, getting outside, going for those walks, doing some strength training, etc., or any other activity, I realize I am not the type of person who is an all or nothing person. I need steps. Because I've reflected over the years on what's happening along the way, I'm able to notice that for me, when I'm pushed to a huge goal and I don't feel like I've built up the stamina, whether it's like maybe it's a physical thing or the mental capacity or the practices in daily life, like the rhythms in my life, it feels so overwhelming that everything in my brain starts to shut down, and then I'm not going to tackle that task at all. And I would venture to guess that a lot of us actually need things broken down because we can visualize or we have identified something that feels really life changing. It would be amazing if I could just do this, or if I just had this on the other side. This financial goal, if I just made this much money, if I could just launch these projects, if I just never reacted the way that I always react in this situation, if I could remain calm and confident and XYZ, everything would change. It's not the goal that's bad, and it's not you that's bad, but we need a little more explanation, or not explanation, we need a little more, there's just nuance in each of us and the way that we're looking at a goal, the way that we identify, the way that we mm, our motivations for the goal, the way that we see the goal, and the way that we can see a path. Can you even see a path toward that? So let's say the goal is being able to say no. Friends always ask you to do something for them, you say yes. Or you just offer yourself even when you don't want to. And you can't seem to stop it. You keep doing it. You keep attempting to you keep saying, oh, yeah, absolutely, I can do that. So the goal might look like, I want to have healthier boundaries and healthier limits. I want to be able to say no. That's great. That's fantastic. I'm still working on that goal in some areas. I've grown a lot, but it's a work in progress. And that's part of this big picture, that we can look at that goal and want it so badly that we start to split things in our mind and our body. And it's either all or nothing. I do that or I don't. Versus, what does it look like to take a step where I maybe feel a little bit of fear in disagreeing or saying a different opinion, and I learn to tolerate the distress that comes up when I do that, or I say no in an easier situation than whatever dynamic it is that I'm having the most struggle in. And I build over time the ability to say no, the ability to handle the distress of people having people getting upset with me, having a lot to say about it, that it feels overwhelming or something like that. And what if I also along the way found out what kind of resources help me do those things? We are energized in a way, like there's an internal capacity that we all have to think rationally, to access our emotions, to be able to bring the two together and move forward in alignment with our values and with God's design within us. That internal capacity is depleted with stress. It's depleted with the way, things that we eat, with our physical well-being. It's depleted in a number of ways. One of the ways that it's also depleted is when we are doing things on our own, when we are not supported by other people in ways that we need. And that can happen when we believe and have learned that it's just up to us. And so we're just going to make it happen, and we're going to do it all on our own. And by gosh, I am going to make sure that the next time I get it right. But we don't have other people that we're talking to about it. Or we're not vulnerable in sharing the fear and letting someone else meet us in the underlying emotional turmoil, that maybe turmoil is a little drastic of a word, but the distress that we experience, so that that distress lessens, our capacity increases, and we are more able to take the next step that moves us towards that goal. And that goal being saying no in a particular situation, walking away okay from it, feeling like you've used words well, etc. One of the things that has helped me move toward that goal is also a couple of different, I say mantras sometimes, but I'm cautious about that, because we can also use these positive affirmations as a way of just keeping us in this superficial level of self-sourced wisdom that we're going to just apply our own will and our own strength to move forward. And at the same time, there are phrases, or it can be scripture verses, etc., that are anchoring, that bring my mind and my body into a place that is more centered on the core of what I value and the core of what is important to me. For example, when it's difficult for me to speak up, for example, or it has been for years, and like I said, it's gotten so much better. EMDR and healing was definitely part of that journey as well, a huge part. But I've also struggled with just not saying things that I felt were really important to say, brain overthinking, whatever, all these different things that are happening. So there's a mantra, phrase, or whatever that I keep with me to remind myself of the way I want to show up in relationships. I want to honor myself while honoring the other person. That phrase has a lot of meaning to me today. That probably looks different. I'm sure it looks different than it did 5 to 10 years ago because I had unhealthy beliefs tied to the concept of loving others and honoring others. To me, that meant I sacrificed everything, and whatever they said was right, and I had to go along with it. I had to agree with them. As I've grown and healed, I've learned that honoring myself while honoring others means that I honor what belongs to me, how I'm showing up, the way that I'm talking, um, and I can still be very firm, and that is still in alignment with how I want to present myself because sometimes you have to be really firm in some situations, but I don't want to attack. I don't want to be vitriolic. If I'm reactive, that's not in alignment with a goal of mine, which is honoring myself and honoring the other person. I want to honor that they have their own thoughts, actions, feelings, motivations, etc. They have their own things that drive them. And they are responsible to manage those. That's not my responsibility to carry. And at the same time, I can honor that it may be challenging to hear no. And so they might be upset. That is theirs. That helps me keep in this framework of I'm honoring myself and I'm honoring them. And also, as things have switched in my understanding about love and honor, I've learned that love doesn't mean you always give in. I mean, like mentally, I'm sure I've known that forever. It makes sense when you say it. It's kind of like, well, yeah, of course. But that's not how I was living. To me, love still meant sacrifice because I wasn't worth anything. I was worth being put down. I was worth taking on all the weight of someone else's bad decision. I'd carry the weight. Someone else being upset, I carry the weight. I didn't want them to see that I even was upset with them. Like it all went inside of me. And that did not turn out well in multiple ways. And when I learned that love is actually honoring that person making their own choices, being responsible for their life, and being responsible to God, I saw it differently. Okay, yes, I can honor them and honor myself by being really clear. So anyway, so that was kind of an anchoring thing that helps me show up in difficult conversations. For example, all of these pieces that I'm talking about are part of breaking down habit development because the habits affect how we look back on our situations. They affect how we interact with other people. They affect the quality of our relationships. They also affect this tendency to be covered in shame or guilt messages and feelings of failure. Oh, I messed up again. I can't ever get it right. What's wrong with me? No one's ever going to want to, whatever. Or, and that's all kind of focused inward. The alternative is focusing outward, and it's all about what is wrong with them? How could they ever not understand this? And man, they need to do this and they need to do that. Um, huh. It's not fun, is it? It's not fun to live that way. It's not fun to experience that. But we can have new experiences. We can develop habits in how we show up, in ways that are specifically about kind of more the personal development, as well as health habits, whether that's food, eating, walking, exercising, etc. All of our goals are going to look a little bit differently, but how we get there isn't just about setting the goal right, like getting like it has to be a smart. I've always struggled with that. It has to be a smart goal. It has to be specific and measurable, attainable and realistic and time driven. Oh my gosh, did I just actually remember that acronym? If that's actually right, somebody let me know because I'm not actually a fan of the smart goals. They're amazing. I'm sure lots of people use them, and it's very important for some people. And there's probably elements of that that we would even talk about in the group. At the same time, it's not the way that I can understand moving toward what matters to me. It just feels like more pressure. That is part of this conversation, not about adding more anxiety and burden and pressure to get it right, to make the goal is, you know, make sure that we even got the goal stated the right way, but to explore, to reflect, to notice what comes up. If I set this goal and immediately I feel anxious, I feel a lot of shame, I want to pay attention to that. Something is going on there. I want to notice that. Doesn't have to stop me, but it's take note. Just pause. Wow, I'm feeling really worked up and thinking about that goal. Maybe there's past experiences where you tried something, or there's some like similarity between the goal that you're working toward and something you've experienced in the past, and the outcome was not very positive. You experienced rejection, you experienced betrayal, you experienced judgment, criticism, condemnation, something like that. There might be old feelings from old experiences that come up. Doesn't mean the goal is bad or that you shouldn't move forward in it, but it is helpful to notice it, to pause. And then as you're building support and structure around moving forward, you could say, hey, you know what? I'm not even sure what's going on, but I want to share this with someone and just have some space to talk it out a little bit. Do you have someone that can do that for you, where they're not fixing you, they're not telling you this is what you need to do, and this is why this is happening, and now you need to make sure you do that? Not someone who's going to add more pressure, but find space. I'm just noticing that. Whew. Okay, yeah, sometimes I have a little sadness, tears come up, not even sure what they're about. I honor that it's there, take a deep breath, and then I can move forward. Dr. Henry Cloud talks about it this way. I think him and Dr. Townsend both talk about this as kind of metabolizing the bad. So like these experiences that we've had that never got processed, they never metabolized their way out of our brains, out of our bodies. They stay inside. They show up. It maybe like there's things that our body remember, events in a specific time of year, and suddenly we're feeling a lot of extra stress and tension, or we're having specific reactions because our body's remembering something from the same time in years past, or it's some other kind of trigger, or environmental or relational trigger, etc. And that when that comes up, it's an opportunity to metabolize it and get it out of your system. Let it go, leave it behind. When we do that, when we allow space for that, that increases the energy and capacity we have to move forward, to experience growth. Whew. Okay, so anybody on the same page with me? I see some thumbs up. That's great. I see a few people are still with me. I would love to hear from you. Just let me know if anything that I've said stands out to you, if it's been helpful. Go ahead and hit the like button. That's always helpful with like the algorithms and stuff like that, and even just letting me know. Um, but if you want to mention something specific that you'd like to take away just from what I've already said today, put it in the comment below. I'd love to read it. I'd love to hear it. If you have a question, go ahead and pop it up, and then let me know if I can put it up on my screen. I could share it with other people, we could talk about it here. That's part of the goal of these live meetups, is to have a casual conversation, to be able to meet with you here, even though it's just me on the screen, but I want to be able to see your comments and know that you're here, and we can engage in some conversation, and explore topics together. So I also want to talk about, let me take a drink of water. Okay, so last week, I posted, and I thought I was posting for the Creator Life Collective page. I had already posted in the group about habits and habit stacking. As I was preparing for the next year and preparing new processes, I'm redesigning a whole bunch of things in the background to prepare myself for future launches, for upcoming projects and content productivity flows, etc. There's a lot of work in the background. And it's been on my mind a lot. And I was thinking about how I was also reflecting on things where I wasn't feeling shame when I said, oh, okay, that didn't really work out so well. Maybe I need to adjust it. We're going to tweak it here, and then I'm going to try it a different way. And anyway, I started sharing about the habit thing, and I accidentally posted it on my profile on Facebook, and someone had mentioned, why not start a group? And I thought, oh my gosh, no, I've already got other groups that I want to launch. I've got things that I have to fix for Cultivate Together. I have ran into so many technical issues in the last couple of months. It's just surreal, but not really surprising. This has happened around the Unleash tool, and now that I'm doing some other soul care, emotional health stuff, it just doesn't surprise me. There's this weird, wild tech stuff that keeps happening. In any case, I thought, no way. And that was my immediate reaction. As I kept thinking about it, I just like this name came to me right away, the Habit Room. And I was like, okay, is there anything with that? Let's see. I don't know. What if we just came together now through like the end of January to start building momentum around goals and areas of life that we want to make see changes in, identifying the steps, breaking it down together, and identifying things that will help us move in that direction before the new year comes. It is, as a content creator looking at the calendar, it feels crazy to think of starting anything in mid-November with Thanksgiving on the horizon and Christmas and the holidays, etc. At the same time, I think about that week in between when some of us step back, we do our reflections, we evaluate our goals, and we put it on paper. Some of us put it down, but we don't have the support system. We don't have the structure in place to actually make it happen, to actually move the needle in that direction. Or we've identified so much that there's no way that we could do all of that. I think that we could really benefit from getting together, having Zoom conversations. I have ideas on different short teachings that can spark something inside each of us, and one teaching might resonate more with one person, and one teaching might resonate more with another person, as a means of engaging in that reflective process, bringing it before God, asking God to speak into it, and also releasing the shame that comes up, the guilt that comes up, the anxiety, in the sense of, oh, I gotta have it, it has to happen, it all has to happen now. Um, so I would like to launch the group. I would like to start with a call on Friday afternoon, probably like 1 or 2 Eastern time on Friday, if we have enough people signed up by Friday. I just put the link into the description box. Hopefully it's working. I set something up on a different platform today and found out they're having issues. So Lord, please. Anyway, hopefully it's working. But if you are interested, what I'm thinking is we'll have a private Facebook group. I will offer live teachings into that group. So the videos will just be hosted in that group. I could put the videos also on a platform connected to this payment place where you're making your payment, if there's a lot of people that don't use Facebook. But I want to keep it simple. So Facebook group, getting connected with other people, and then engaging in different activities that help identify the goal, identify how to break it down. Does it need to be broken down? Does it need to be modified? Why do you have that goal? What's driving you? What supports do you have to move in that direction? What does it look like? Those questions help us go a little bit deeper. They challenge the brain, so it isn't easy. It does take energy, and it is a little bit taxing sometimes on the brain, but they help us not just say, oh yeah, this is a great thing, and magically it's all going to happen. We have to go a little bit further, and those questions take us there to explore more of what's actually going to hold it in place and keep it moving. So my thought is, we have the group. I do some live videos in there. We do some Zoom gatherings where we explore these concepts together, or the teachings could be part of those Zoom calls. Could be just about every week. I am traveling around Thanksgiving, a couple of different things, maybe doing calls on Wednesday, or we could do calls every 2 or 3 weeks throughout this 12-week period, and then have an extended time during that break between Christmas and New Year's, specifically designed for, I don't know, 2, 3, up to 4 hours maybe, to explore a lot of this and identify those steps. Then in January, we're checking in. How's the progress going? What do we need? What might be missing? Do we need to reevaluate, reflect on um, just a way to reframe the goal that we're looking at, etc. That's some initial thoughts that I have. This would be a beta group. You guys would help form it. You guys would help decide how much we get together. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna have my own limits on what I can provide. And initially, when I think about this, this could be like a really high dollar group. What's in my mind, but I want to make it accessible. And part of me struggles because I have done a lot for free for a very long time. And I don't want that to be the finance piece to be the driving factor of this. At the same time, there needs to be a financial investment because putting a financial investment into something like this, especially, is going to increase the likelihood that you will engage, that you will do some of these processes. Maybe not all of it, that's fine. It's also a short-term group. So you are choosing to invest that time for yourself and financially to some extent. The entry level amount is pretty darn minimal. That's just that gets you in regardless. The concept is pay your own price. Pay what you think would be valuable to you. And also, is you investing and saying, this is me choosing to move forward, developing habits to move toward something that's meaningful to me. Maybe it's the way I'm communicating with somebody. Maybe it's the way that I react in different situations, whether circumstances change, or it could even just be those health goals and the things that we all think about at the beginning of the new year. But we set these resolutions at the beginning of the year and they don't just magically happen. One of the concepts I want to talk about in there is when our great idea isn't really just an idea, it's an ideal that we're trying to move to. We're trying to somehow magically jump to. We can take that idea, hold it as an idea, and explore. Totally different shift than this is my vision. It's an idealistic vision that I'm going to expect is going to happen. Now, when I don't meet it or the outcome isn't the way that I want it, everything shifts inside of me and I'm experiencing that failure, that shame, that burden, anxiety, etc. Let's see, other concepts I want to talk about in the group. I had some ideas posted on Facebook. So goals versus expectations, internal blocks, external forces that are, maybe things that we don't even always identify, but they do impact our ability to move toward a specific goal or the pace at which we move forward. Gracious attending versus shameful acquiescing. Explain that more in the group. Identification, so identifying why, whose choice this is, how we're going to do it. Being a steward versus a servant. I'll explain more about that in the group as well. These are just some ideas that I have for teaching content that can be part of the habit room. The link is there. If just message me, send me a DM or send me an email message to Joe at Jolene Underwood if this sounds interesting to you. If you would like to be participant, please invite others to join you. I need enough people to be interested in order to make this work. If it's just like one or two people, it's not going to be worth the energy that I'm putting into it. And I will just refund everybody if that's the case. But I want to be able to offer this because I know what it's like to try to do it on your own. I know the exhaustion, and I know that a lot of other people have goals that they want to move toward, and they're just wrestling getting there. Now, this is not therapy. This is not uncovering all the roots and healing those, etc. If something does come up, though, and give you some space, we can talk it through a little bit and help you find the resources that you need so that you can go further if you need to. At the end of the day, the habit room would be a place where we're diving into the process as a process, as this exploration and noticing what's important, what the values are, noticing even the way that we frame the goals, etc., so that we can make decisions, share those decisions with other people, and then find encouragement. Find what is it that we even need along the way that does keep me going. Not just like accountability in the sense of, oh, I checked in with somebody and told them I did this or I did not do that. We're talking about identifying when, let's say you're checking in because and you didn't do whatever your goal was for that week, and you had an accountability partner if that's the way things were set up, and you let them know you didn't do it, and they'd say, why didn't you, etc., and how are you going to do it different? That feels like more pressure. What if the reason someone didn't take that next step is because the emotions started to surface about something related to that goal and they needed a little relational support, or they were engaging in they're 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 afraid to take the step, and they need to just express that, the fact that there is fear, and see if someone else can hold that space. Those bring the energy back. Those increase that capacity so that you can move forward. Okay, I feel like I'm talking in circles at this point. I don't see any questions or comments up on the screen, but I would love to know if you have them. And I put a little graphic up here. Move toward what matters, not what distracts. So as busy thinkers, overthinking. Oh yeah, it's got that image. Okay, that is what I'd like to launch, and we would start Friday afternoon. We would go through the end of January, 12 weeks ish, maybe just slightly more, um, if I have enough people that sign up. So hopefully that link is in there. Minimum is at the link. You could take a look at it. It is not very much of an investment for 12 weeks to gain momentum, to gain perspective, to gain clarity, and to start making progress. I sure hope I'll see you there. Take care.